All right, today we're going to be talking about Path of Exile 2. I'm going to be going over kind of perspectives here of what I've gathered over hundreds of hours of playing the game and what I think about it and just kind of a state of the game, plus just kind of the future and what we can kind of expect going forward from Grinding Gear Games and their reputation and everything. And what I just, where we're going with all this. And the good and the bad, pros and the cons here. And as much as I absolutely love the game, it's one thing that I found that's completely backwards is that the campaign is amazing, but the end game is severely lacking. I know a lot of us know it. It's very commonality here. It needs a lot of work, even though they rushed to get it out. They stopped the other three acts that they were developing on just to get us an end game for the early access. I know a lot of people are all saying the same thing, that it's just early access. They'll get it done. They'll do that. But this is kind of their one shot to make an impression, and that's why people are treating it like a full release, because you only get one impression, and that's it. And it's going to take time to redeem that. Things go wrong, and that's what they're doing. They're cleaning up, trying to. And things are opposite right now. Like the campaign's good and game's bad. The opposite of what PoE 1 is, where the campaign's just kind of it's just like the tutorial. And the end game is masterfully well done. It's great, But here's the thing: like when Path of Exile 1 came out, it's very similar. I wasn't there when I played it, but I heard a lot of things from people that it was very mediocre. It was very undercooked and everything. It had it's beta and everything. It seems like they're kind of repeating history a little bit here, and it's going to take a long time before they build up the content in the game and add leagues and more cool stuff and reiterate other leagues that have come out in the past and did this in PoE 2 and help balance out the game and work around the issues that are still plaguing it to this day. That brings me to my next point. The maps in the game, the end game, are way worse than PoE 1. Like PoE 1, there's incredible goated maps. One example is Beach. Beach is one of the best maps ever. It's so good. It's small, tight, precise. You go through it, it just feels good. As opposed to PoE 2's maps that are majority or big and long and they take forever. Very few come close to Beach. Like for example, Savannah is a nice small map. Easy to navigate, no problems, wide open. You can do a lot of clearing damage. Perfect for breaching. And that's like the number one you want to go for. Every other map is just, they all just feel kind of mediocre. I think there might be one or two that are okay, but Savannah by far has been the best, in my opinion. Now, they have had some things over time, like adding checkpoints into maps, which is fine, but it's not enough, because if you die, you still lose the map anyways, and I know it's intended that they want to feel more challenging, but in PoE 1, we had 6 portals to each map. You die, you use a portal. You go out of that, you go back to town, you use a portal, so you know what you're working with here. And this, you die once, you lose a map, and it feels so bad. And that's the other point here, is when you juice a map that you used with towers, and you juice the map Exalted, add delirium stuff to it, or your essences basically, it doesn't feel good when you die to some bullshit thing that happened, and that's it. The map's gone, and you have to redo it without any of the juice attached to it that you gathered from towers and what have you. It's not good. The only thing they did to that that was good quality of life is that Pinnacle bosses, they added more portal attempts to it, which that's fair. They're Pinnacle bosses. They're challenging. You should have more than one attempt. And it brings me to kind of the next problem with that is that okay, Pinnacle bosses, that's really in-game material here, but the majority of the player base is not going to care or want to do that. That's kind of like, I don't want to say for the 1%, but it's definitely for it's for the minority, not the majority here. So you give more portals to those players that want to attempt those, fair, but it's not good enough for the majority who are trying to just complete tier 15 maps. Like, I can do it just fine, but I still got to be very careful because I'm a glass can. But that's on me because I haven't upped my defenses. I'm just upping my offenses. It's my priorities. And let's see here. Leveling is way slower in this when you're going through the campaign, and that's fine compared to PoE 1 where you zoom at a base level. Like if you booted up PoE 1 right after playing, put them side by side, start a new campaign, PoE 2, do that for a few minutes, stop, boot up PoE 1, start a new campaign. You will feel the difference of just the movement without any boots on, and it feels amazing. Now I understand it's intended. They want it to be slower, kind of, I don't want to say Dark Souls-esque, but yeah, pretty much. That's kind of the idea here. And yeah, you can get quicker by getting boot speed, movement speed, and you can use Blink, but Blink reserves 60 Spirit, and Spirit is a valuable resource for reserving Heralds and what have you for clearing and doing more damage. And kind of that's my next point too, is that builds in the game for the end game are they're very pigeonholed into a few select builds, which was very predictable. It's kind of similar to Path of Exile 1. There's a set amount of builds you can do, but there's more variety because there's more content in that game, more uniques, more this and that gives you where you can actually work and make a build work, even though it can take a lot of investment, a lot of crafting, but it can be done. As opposed to PoE 1, there's no crafting, so certain builds get pigeonholed into certain ways. Example, the Herald of Thunder and Herald of Ice is one of the most popular things. Most builds are have it implemented. I have Herald of Thunder. I don't have Ice because I can't work with Ice because I'm not doing enough cold damage. And Freeze build-up, I'm just working with Herald of Thunder, and it's got me all the way to tier 15. It's no big deal. I'm just doing Ball of Lightning, Herald of Thunder, and it's working perfectly. I'm melting things left and right, bossing, perfect, clearing, even just great. But that's kind of the problem too, is that how they're going to balance that out and work with it here. And other things, they're more likely going to be on the chopping block is Gemling, Legionnaire stat stacking, and there are other stat stacking builds. I think there's Spark stat stacking builds that people have been doing too. They're really strong, maybe a little bit too strong, where they're outclassing everything else. And it kind of presents the problem here of how hard is it going to get nerfed? If is it going to get nerfed? Surely it will because of GGG's reputation with nerfing stuff. Usually they go pretty hard on nerfing. But it will remain to be seen. Is that what will they do? Will they nerf it into the ground where we'll just have to figure something else out? Or will they above other skills raise the ceiling so they come in line where they'll be just strong, which presents power creep too much in the game where there'll be no challenge, and that's a problem. So they'll have to make harder content, or just keep things as is. Which I just, based on the reputation, it's just there's no way they're not going to nerf something. Either the uniques, the ascendancy itself, the Gemling Legionnaire. They could nerf some of the uniques, like the Hand of Wisdom in action. That's all part of the stacker builds. It's like the mainstay here. It's the medium. The Regalia chest piece, which I don't think is overpowered at all. I think they'll leave it alone. There's a very expensive Divine Necklace. I cannot remember the name of it, but it's part of the stat stacking. Very good. Unique jewels, too, like Across the Darkness and some of the other ones are really, really valuable. I don't know. They might nerf those, but we'll have to wait and see how far they're going to go. Other things too, like Warrior. I think Warrior needs a lot of love, even though it's slow but strong. And I know that's intended. Slow, strong, lumbering Warrior. There are people that are making builds out of it, using it as like a minion build, a magic build, pretty much anything but Warrior skills, and that's kind of a problem because the early leveling for Warrior is so atrociously bad. Nobody recommends it, not even Karn. And Karn's been a Warrior main for freaking forever. I think since PoE 1 and probably further back than that. It's not a good look. So they need to up the speed, not the nerfs. I know a lot of the skill, passive skill tree kind of nerfs your attack speed. It gives you attack damage, but it can nerf your speed. And that's kind of the problem with some of the skill tree, passive skill tree in general, is that it's nerfed compared to PoE 1. And it takes longer to get to nodes, and there's no mastery nodes that are There's no lists of them once you get to the mastery. Usually you have like a choice, multiple choice, and you can only choose one out of like, I don't know, like 6 or 7. I can't remember how many. But you just, in this PoE 2, you just choose one, and it's just what it is, what it is. And if you don't like it, well, find another node, pretty much. Anyways, moving on. There's no crafting bench, of course. I didn't know they've had their kind of opinion on it. Like they had it before, but they took it out during like a network test or something months ago, and it shows that they obviously have an idea about how they want to put it in. It's just a matter of when, because we kind of need it, and we need to get rid of the tedium in the game. All right, since there's no orbs of alteration, orbs of regret, it makes crafting not crafting. It's gambling at this point. It has been since the game launched. That's what we're dealing with. If you don't have what you want, then you're screwed unless you use Chaos or Divine Orbs, and those are kind of not easy to get. They're not necessarily, well, they're not cheap right now. So it makes the whole thing just an absolute pain in the ass. Next thing, we need an auction house. Trading is god-awful in this game. It's very much like PoE 1, but it feels so much worse because there's a lot of bots, there's a lot of weird interactions, a lot of people canceling the trade halfway, or they want an item for you, but then they don't join your party, they just kick you immediately. It's some weird behavior. And then you can ask them like why, and they don't respond, or they say they misclicked, or they thought it was something else. It's just, it's very bizarre interaction. The auction house we had with the console edition of PoE 1 was godly. That was the only redeeming thing, in my opinion, about those versions of Path of Exile 1. It felt terrible to play, but the auction house was such a godsend. There's just no two ways about it. And going back and playing it nowadays, it still feels good. PlayStation 5 version of the game, the loading times are silky smooth. It feels so nice. The movement, though, is, there's no WAC. It doesn't have the twin stick feel of Path of Exile 2, but still, you zoom and it feels good. In my opinion, it's redeemable and it feels good. It's like going back to Diablo 2 after months of not playing it. It just feels right to play. Now, that's all the negatives I have right now, but moving on to the better parts here. I'll try to get through this. I know this video is going on long enough. This gameplay. Movement feels great. Skills feel better than others, like example, Ice Strike, Spark, Lightning Arrow. Those all feel good. Some other ones, like the Warrior skills, feel like absolute dog shit, and they need some love. And the skill gem system is another huge improvement over PoE 1. All right, we're having our skills off to a side window instead of on our gear, our armor and weapons, is so much better than the tedium of Path of Exile 1, where we had to get our gem sockets up to trying to get a 5-link or a 6-link chest piece or a weapon was absolute just tooth and nail, felt like dog shit, and it was all just pretty much RNG unless you had 1,200 orbs of fusing and jeweler's orbs to get exactly what you wanted, or just buy one off the market, which was the better choice anyways. It just feels so much better compared to that. So that is an absolute big win there that they implemented, thank God. Other than that, the next big thing is the positive is the classes all feel great to play. They all have their variety, obviously minus Warrior, but all the other ones have incredible builds. Monk has Ice Strike. Legionnaire, crossbow's kind of wonky. It has a jamming mechanic that's apparently intended. It feels like freaking shit when you're shooting the grenades and everything. But if you're shooting like galvanic shards or something, you don't have that problem. It's just for some reason with the grenades, it seems to jam up way more often than it should. Other things like the sorceress. She's got Spark and Magic builds, like some Fire builds, but Spark is the absolute meta right now. It feels fantastic to play. The clearing on that is absolute god tier. Fantastic. I can't imagine that class without it. Minions for the Witch. Minions are absolutely incredible. I've never done a minion build like authentically until recently. Feels fantastic. Lacking a little bit of damage, but it feels great. You feel tanky, and the minions just kind of do everything on their own. You just gotta do some firewalls here and there. But other than that, yeah, it's great. Ranger, that was one of the first builds I played. Lightning Arrow, Lightning Rod. is absolutely, that'd probably be next to Eye Strike, one of the most goated skills in the entire game, where you could pick it up at the beginning. You pick it up at the beginning of the game as soon as the campaign starts, and it goes all the way till the end game, like without any problems. You just absolutely cream the entire campaign with it, and it was so much nicer than the game with the crossbows, Legionnaire. Like, what a world of difference. Anyways, enough of this. Moved on to the last bit of the video here, because it's going on a little too long here. Is that the last positive we have to look forward to here is that they confirmed a update, the 0.2.0 update that's coming in the middle of March, confirmed, which will be at the end of the League of Pruchen, or Pruchen, whatever it's called, 4chan as I call it. That's in PoE 1 right now, and it's in full swing. It feels good. I've been playing it. It's good stuff. And by the time that league ends, the update for PoE 2 will start. So the overlap it's perfect timing, and it's good. And hopefully we get some good stuff. Hopefully an event, something. We're all hoping Druid class or Huntress, because they said it was going to be in early access. So hopefully we get something fun to play with. We need new toys, new stuff. We have new weapons that haven't even been implemented into Path of Exile 2 yet. We don't have daggers. We don't have flails. We don't even have swords. And they're in the skill tree, the passive skill tree too. There are nodes for that. So we get those, the more we can play with them and see what works. Spears. Spears are like the Huntress's main weapon. We haven't had those yet. To mess around with those, this could be incredibly strong for all we know. So there's a lot. There's so much missing in the game. It has an incredible foundation, great bones. It just needs to be built upon properly, and hopefully GGG does not falter and gets stuff together here and does it justice. And so far, the quality of life they've done has been exceptional, in my opinion. And so far, so good. And hopefully they do well without Chris Wilson. He will be missed. Sad that he had to step down and walk away from being the director and co-founder, and hopefully whoever takes his place does his job justice. So anyways, that's pretty much all I have to say about this. I know this video went on very long. Apologies for that, but I told you it'd be kind of a rant and perspective. And hopefully we get to see good things in the future. But anyways, hopefully you all like this video. I appreciate if you like and subscribe if you want to. If you don't, that is okay. And I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace out, Cub Scouts.